In about 10 days, Ross gonna throw him away. I'm gonna be real with you, Meech. If Rick Ross, seeing what he did to you, because he knew what he was doing standing on the side of him, right?
I've seen a lot of posts about the Big Meech concert getting canceled. What I'm not seeing is anybody blaming Rick Ross for this shit. Nobody is saying, yo, Rick Ross is your fault.
The long-awaited return of Big Meech had the streets buzzing. Meech was more than just a name. He was a living legend. At first, it looked like his homecoming would be massive, with heavyweights lining up to show support. Big business plays on the table and unstoppable momentum fueling his rebirth. But the real story took an unexpected, and some say inevitable, turn when Rick Ross stepped up to the plate. What started off as a generous promise to celebrate Meech's freedom soon revealed itself as something far more complicated. Some call it a betrayal, others see it as Meech's own miscalculation. One thing is clear: what happened behind closed doors with Rick Ross changed everything. From the outside, it appeared like nothing could go wrong. Big Meech was out, he'd served his time, and the hip-hop world was beyond ready to watch him rebuild. Music insiders whispered about partnerships in the works, business ventures that would bring in serious money, and a looming showdown between past allies and longtime rivals. Yet while everyone kept their eyes on the drama between Meech and 50 Cent, Rick Ross slipped quietly into the center of the storm. He arrived with big talk about a triumphant concert, a larger-than-life event that would announce Meech's return to the world. On social media, Ross and Meech stood shoulder to shoulder, fueling speculation about unstoppable collaborations. But that inspiring picture soon cracked, and the casualties of the fallout were swift and brutal. For years, Meech had enjoyed steady backing from 50 Cent. While Meech was locked away, 50 pumped time and money into preserving the BMF legacy. He brought Meech's story to a new generation, shining a spotlight on a piece of hip-hop history that might otherwise have faded into the background. 50 made sure Meech's family had help when they needed it, and worked to keep Meech's name alive in music, film, and TV. It was a matter of loyalty and genuine respect. So when Meech walked out of prison, the expectation was that the two men would continue building. Everyone figured Meech would stand beside 50, back the ongoing BMF projects on TV, and maybe launch a few new ventures. But as soon as word got out about Meech's release, Rick Ross played his hand. This is the same Rick Ross who'd been locked in a feud with 50 Cent for years. The tension between these two had taken on a life of its own, sometimes overshadowing their music. For Ross, aligning with Meech served multiple purposes. It spited 50, grabbed headlines, and fed into a long-running narrative of boss moves. According to insiders who've known both men for a while, Ross reached out to Meech almost immediately, promising him a huge welcome-back extravaganza. The idea was to organize a concert that would not only generate cash for Meech, but also signal to the world that the real BMF boss was home and unstoppable. People close to the planning claimed it sounded perfect on paper. Ross talked of inviting major names in hip-hop, film producers, and big investors. If this worked, Meech wouldn't just be back, he'd be back in a way that would overshadow everything else happening in the scene.
I do want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small-budget series. Now it's time to do a big-budget film. Which director? Shout out to my homie F. Gary Gray, Antoine Foucault, what's up? Tarantino. It's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking.
Yet, as the details emerged, rumors started swirling. Some folks whispered that Ross had no intention of fully delivering on these promises. They insisted he was out for publicity, hoping to slap his name on the headlines in connection to Big Meech and feed the ongoing feud. With 50, at the time though, Meech remained optimistic. He'd spent 15 years behind bars, and the idea of stepping onto a massive stage in his honor was too enticing to turn down. Then everything fell apart. Contracts for the show disintegrated, sponsors pulled out, and the entire event was abruptly canceled before it even got off the ground. At first, fans blamed everyone but Ross, pointing fingers at 50 Cent and insinuating that the fiasco was part of the continued war between 50 and Meech.
How you let that nigga get the show canceled in Florida, B? That's kind of diabolical, you heard? 50, that's some bullshit. How you let the nigga get the show canceled in Florida? Let's get to that.
But then, a revealing post popped up, someone who had direct connections to both Big Meech, and Rick Ross stated it plainly. The cancellation was Ross's doing. The claim was that Ross pushed for certain conditions behind the scenes, realized they wouldn't be met, and then strategically let the event collapse. Worse yet, he apparently vanished right when Meech needed him the most, leaving the blame to fall on Meech's shoulders. At that point, eyebrows shot up all over the industry. People noticed something peculiar about Ross's behavior. Out of nowhere, he began posting about a mysterious shoulder injury that conveniently prevented him from being fully involved.
See what I'm doing right now? My shoulder broke, but we still getting to the money. We still counting paper. This ain't a pump and dump, baby. We bossing all the way up. Get the address to the boss token.
While Meech's plans were crashing and his family was reportedly under pressure, Ross was busy promoting new ventures like a flashy cryptocurrency project called Boss Token and high-end car shows that charged fans thousands of dollars for VIP passes. It looked like Ross had pivoted into the next hustle, leaving Meech standing in the rubble. That was enough for 50 Cent to jump back into the mix. A master at social media warfare, 50 wasted no time blasting Meech for sidestepping him.
On the edge, so don't push. I ain't straight for your head, so don't push.
Yeah, I'm out here in Miami. We're gonna do live tonight. It's gonna be live if it don't get canceled.
This party is canceled until...
In a social media post, he poked fun at the entire fiasco, claiming that Meech had essentially sold out to Ross, a man who 50 considered fake. Part of 50's frustration was personal. He'd stood by Meech during the man's lowest points, provided financial assistance to his family, and shepherded the BMF brand to new success through television. From 50's perspective, Meech had disrespected their alliance by buddying up with Ross, a known rival who had built a significant portion of his image on the BMF name years earlier with the track BMF Blowin' Money Fast. All the while, accusations about Ross's background began to resurface. This was more than just the usual internet gossip about him once working as a corrections officer.
Rose says, Your Honor. Judge says, are you a kingpin? A Bausch, if you will. Rose said, no. The crowd goes, The judge said, the crowd goes silent. He goes, so what were you before you were a rapper? Rose goes, a corrections officer.
It was about how his entire persona might be a carefully crafted facade. Ross had long appropriated the name of Freeway Rick Ross, the real ex-drug kingpin who served time in prison.
His name is Rick Ross, but not only that, this Rick Ross claims that his whole identity was stolen. Peep the beard, peep the bald hair, the selling stuff.
After his release, the real Rick Ross launched legal battles, accusing the rapper of hijacking not just a moniker, but a full identity. Despite the controversy, the rapper Rick Ross managed to hold on to his stage name and his career soared. Over the years, he teased that he was deeply involved with real street business, going so far as to mention figures like Larry Hoover in his songs. But when push came to shove, like the fiasco around a planned Larry Hoover benefit, Ross seemed to vanish or deflect blame onto promoters and event managers. What left so many hip-hop insiders shaking their heads was how Meech, a man renowned for his street smarts, fell for Ross's smooth talk. He'd seen that Ross had a pattern: attach himself to high-profile figures or movements, create loads of hype, and then back away quietly when things got complicated. There were even rumors that Ross might be cooperating with certain authorities, though nobody ever provided concrete proof of that. Street legends from Atlanta to Chicago pointed out that Ross always seemed to pop up with outrageous storylines or random injuries whenever real drama caught up to him. Unfortunately for Meech, that pattern played out in real time. As soon as the hype around a possible comeback show reached its peak, everything fizzled. One minute, Meech was all over social media looking triumphant with Ross. The next minute, Ross's name was nowhere to be found, and Meech stood alone under the weight of a failed concert and endless speculation about his next move. It didn't help that 50 Cent chimed in by suggesting Meech might have made questionable decisions while in prison to secure an earlier release, harsh words implying that Meech violated codes of street loyalty, the same code he'd famously boasted he would never break. Meech tried to defend himself, insisting he never folded and never told.
I never folded, never told, never will. Death before dishonor.
He doubled down on the idea that he'd always abide by street principles no matter what. But in the eyes of many, he had already folded on his most reliable supporter, 50 Cent. The hostility only escalated when Meech issued a vague statement that sounded more like a legal formality than a genuine message. He simply repeated his loyalty mantra without addressing why he'd teamed up with Ross, how the concert came undone, or what he planned to do next. That scripted response didn't do him any favors. Fans and peers alike called it hollow, especially after all the talk about never betraying the people who had your back.
Oh, yo, he never ratted on nobody. He official. What? Jailhouse full of paying rent that never ratted, wouldn't dare rat, but they butt. What is you talking about? He official. That don't make you solid because you ain't rat. You shouldn't get no credit because you ain't rat. You wasn't supposed to rap. You don't get no check on his resume because he ain't rap.
Industry veterans and even typically neutral figures started weighing in on the fiasco. Some insisted Ross had hoodwinked Meech by offering illusions of easy money and a triumphant comeback. Others pinned the blame on Meech's desperation to secure a massive payday after so many years behind bars. Still others said the meltdown was simply the result of mixing brand confusion, personal pride, and rival agendas. The final assessment from insiders was pretty much unanimous. Big Meech had fumbled a golden opportunity. He had everything set. Up with 50 Cent, someone who had already proven his willingness to invest time, cash, and credibility into extending the BMF story. Instead, Meech chose a man whose track record showed repeated ghosting and questionable loyalty. While all of this roiled behind the scenes, Ross maintained a front of being unbothered. He continued to appear at luxury events, touting his signature lavish lifestyle and teasing new business projects. Apart from the occasional cryptic post referencing boss moves, he had surprisingly little to say about Big Meech. That silence spoke louder than any public statement. Meanwhile, Meech's circle struggled to figure out what came next. The dream of an epic comeback concert was dead, and the alliances he once counted on weren't looking nearly as solid. As the drama played out online, viewers saw flashes of anger in Meech's eyes. He'd mentioned how he never expected the man who stood next to him in photos to disappear when the going got tough. Some even speculated that tension boiled over in private, although there's nothing concrete to prove it. Despite the damage, there's talk of Meech still trying to make good on future deals, but that prospect became murky the moment 50 Cent put him on blast. Anyone who follows 50 knows he doesn't drop feuds easily.
What 50 Cent do? It's not about what he's done to the people he's beefed with. It's about what he's doing to the people he's beefed with. Because you see, when you start beefing with 50 Cent, you beefing for life. He will never stop.
Once he calls you out, he keeps at it. And in this situation, 50 believed Meech had shown his true colors by aligning himself with Ross. If 50 is serious about holding a grudge, that may lock Meech out of some massive opportunities, including film productions, streaming deals, and potentially hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars.
19 years of being incarcerated. That 50 could have took that and converted that to about 5 seasons and then turned around and then did the overall movie. He had a good 30 to 50 minutes.
The betrayal in 50's eyes is personal, and he's not known for letting anyone off easily. Industry watchers now debate whether Meech can salvage his relationship with 50 or if it's destroyed for good. Some are betting on a quiet conversation taking place behind closed doors, a chance for Meech to explain how he got caught up in Ross's glowing promises. Others expect 50 Cent to hold Meech accountable, using the BMF brand, legally licensed in his favor, to overshadow any competing narratives. Meanwhile, rumors persist that Ross has been reaching out to 50's camp, trying to patch things up or strike some compromise.
And that's your way of saying, Rose, let's put it to the side. I'm really a good guy. And I get it, but it ain't time for that yet. Because when I see your I don't hug him, I don't speak to him.
It's a dizzying twist to the story. The same man who apparently orchestrated events to disrupt 50's territory is now said to be seeking a handshake. If there's one thing we know, it's that 50 rarely forgives and never forgets. Behind all these headlines, one can't ignore the human element. Meech spent years locked away, dreaming of the moment he'd be free to correct mistakes from his past. Instead, he walked straight into a public spectacle that left him looking betrayed, humiliated, and at odds with the person who had stood by him for more than a decade. It's the kind of heartbreak that might push a lesser man to retreat entirely. Whether he'll bounce back with renewed focus and humility or remain stuck in the aftermath of this broken alliance is anyone's guess. But those who know Meech still talk about his resilience. They say he'll use this experience as a lesson in who to trust. The question is whether the damage to his reputation and finances is too severe to repair. One thing's certain, Rick. Ross walked away from this drama without a scratch, at least publicly. He's back to promoting new business ideas, staging high-profile car shows, and soaking up attention on social media. The fiasco hasn't tarnished his brand nearly as much as it has Meech's. That's exactly what some cynics predicted. That Ross would leverage Meech's release for clout, then pivot at the exact moment it suited him, leaving Meech to carry the blame for any fallout. The real question is whether the streets and the industry at large will remember this move the next time Ross tries to align himself with legendary figures for hype. For Meech, the big reveal is that trust in the music game is a fragile commodity, especially when you're dealing with personalities who have histories of skirting controversy or rewriting their own narratives. In the end, a betrayal like this isn't just about a cancelled show or a missed payday, it's about tarnished honor. Meech built his entire image on loyalty and unbreakable bonds, and the optics of being left high and dry by Ross have shaken that image. Add 50's public call-outs, and it's a perfect storm that could cost Meech a chance at truly reclaiming reclaiming the throne he'd once occupied. So will he recover? There's always a path to redemption, and Meech is no stranger to surviving hardships. Yet the circumstances this time are different. He's in a rapidly evolving industry that runs on social media narratives, streaming platforms, and brand partnerships. Overnight, reputations can be remade or destroyed through the court of public opinion. If Meech manages to rebuild and repair the cracks in his relationship with 50 Cent, it could mean huge success for them both. Alternatively, if Ross's version of events buries Meech in further controversy, or if 50 decides he's had enough, Meech could find himself on the sidelines, watching others capitalize on the legacy he helped create. In the end, it boils down to one central question: can Big Meech bounce back from this fiasco, or is this the start of a downward spiral he never saw coming? Plenty of voices in the community believe he was taken advantage of. Others say he should have known better than to hop into bed with someone carrying that much baggage. No matter what you believe, the story is a stark reminder that loyalty in hip-hop can be both precious and perilous. Whatever happens next will determine the legacy Meech leaves behind. If he's willing to own his mistakes and make amends, there could still be a bright future. If he chooses to double down on questionable alliances, then maybe his redemption arc ends here. Only time will tell which path he takes, yet one undeniable truth remains. The world wanted Big Meech's return to be legendary, but instead it turned into a cautionary tale about trust, betrayal, and the high-stakes chess game that is the hip-hop industry. The story is still unfolding. Maybe new revelations will surface, or a surprising twist will bring Meech and 50 Cent back into alignment. Perhaps Rick Ross has even more unexpected moves hidden up his sleeve, moves that could either redeem him or sink him deeper into controversy. For now, viewers are left to speculate and draw their own conclusions. In a domain where power and money sway even the most experienced players, genuine loyalty is rare currency. Big Meech learned that the hard way.